Okay, so this lesson we're going to look at circumference. And remember, circumference is just the perimeter of a circle, how long it takes us to go around the entire circle. So first we need to think back to pi. We've talked about pi in class and we came up with this definition for pi. Pi is the circumference divided by the diameter or the ratio of these two in any circle. Now, if we want to see that again, here we have the diameter. So each of these orange lines is the diameter. So here on the screen we have 4 diameters. But if we were to roll out the circle, it's going to roll, and we're going to get 3 diameters, 0.14, etc. for pi. So this point here is pi if we would go to the whole beginning of the thing. Oh, sorry. Now, if we were to take that equation, we can rearrange it to work out our circumference. So our circumference is going to just be pi times the diameter. We can find that by just multiplying each side by diameter. So if I was to multiply by diameter on both sides, we're going to get this equation down the bottom. So the equation's now being put up here. So the circumference equals pi times diameter. And now we can also write that as 2 pi times the radius, because a radius is just half the length of a diameter. So if we have 2 of them, we're going to have the same as the diameter. So here, remember, circumference is pi d, or circumference is 2 pi r. Now we need to find the circumference of this circle. And for this video, we're going to leave them all in exact form. But if a question asked you to find it to the nearest decimal place, you would need to do it in that way as well. But we're going to leave it in exact or surd form. So here we have our circumference is pi times d. We have diameter in this case, so we're going to use the first one. So we're going to get circumference equals pi times 10. And we can make that a bit neater, but just writing 10 pi. And we need to remember our measurements, that's centimeters. So we're going to write 10 pi centimeters down there. All right, so that's the circumference of the first circle. If we were then to want to find it in 2 decimal places, we would have to put it into our calculator and multiply 10 by pi. Okay, so this time we've been given a radius, not a diameter. So we're going to use the second one. So we have circumference is going to be equal to 2 pi r. Circumference is then going to equal 2 pi, and our radius is 4 centimeters, so we're going to times it by 4. Now we go 2 times 4, we're going to get 8, lots of pi. And again, remember your unit of measurement. So it's 8 pi millimeters. For this question, it's a bit different. We've been given the circumference and need to work out the radius. So we have a circumference of 10 meters and we need to find the radius. So we need to find the radius and we have the circumference. So we're going to use this one. So we have c equals 2 pi r. Now, if we want to find the radius, we're going to have to divide both sides by 2 pi. So if we divide by 2 pi here and divide by 2 pi here, we're going to keep the equation balanced. We're going to have c over 2 pi equals r. And now remember our c, our circumference, is 10 meters. So we can go 10 over 2 pi equals r. So we're going to have 5 over pi equals r. Now, just for fun, I'm going to work out what number that would be. But you could leave this, we might bring it up here. You could leave this as radius equals 5 over pi. But just so that we can have a bit more of an understanding of what that looks like, I'm going to work it out. And that would come to something like 1.59, and that's meters to the 2 decimal place. Remember your meters there. Okay, this one is again a bit more difficult. We don't have a whole circle this time, we have a semicircle. So we need to think about what's happening here. If we were to find the circumference of a circle, and here we have the diameter, which is 10, so we'd be using this equation. But we're not finding the whole circle, we need to find the perimeter of the semicircle. So we've only got half of this part. So we're going to find half of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go perimeter is going to be half of pi d, because we only want half of this whole circle amount. But then we also have to remember we're finding the perimeter, so we need to find this length and add it on. we're going to find this, which is in this case just the diameter. So we're going to add an extra diameter. So we can simplify this one now. So perimeter is going to be half of pi times 10 plus 10. So perimeter is going to be a half of 10, which is 5 pi plus 10. Now that's in exact form. I'm going to simplify it just for an example. And so we're going to get, when we put this into our calculator, 25.71 meters to 2 decimal places. Now this should also have meters there. Now, an important thing to know before we move on is when we're using pi, pi is going to be 3.1415, etc., etc. So pi is an irrational number, so we can't finish writing it, but we can use approximations of pi to check our answers. So if we instead wanted to use an approximation of pi, so we use the squiggly equal sign, is going to be an approximation. So we could say that pi is approximately equal 3. So we could calculate this one in our head, just to make sure we haven't made any mistakes when we entered it into the calculator. So what we do would we go p equals 5 times 3 plus 10, which is going to be 15 plus 10, which is 25. And now 25 is close to this answer, so we can assume we've made the right decision, or we've done it correctly in the calculator. But do know that you can use an approximation of pi just to check that your answer is correct in your head. Now it's your turn. Find the circumference of this circle. Okay, so circumference is going to be pi d in this case because we have the diameter. So circumference is going to be 12 pi. Now find the circumference of this circle. Okay, so we've been given the radius, so we're going to use the second equation. Circumference equals 2 pi r. So circumference is 2 pi times 3, or 6 pi centimeters. Okay, so now you need to calculate the diameter if you have a circumference of 12. Okay, so we're looking for the diameter, so we're going to use this one. So we have c equals pi d. We can substitute in 12 as our circumference, so 12 equals pi d. Now, to get our diameter by itself, we're going to divide both sides by pi. I'm also going to swap the sides because we always want our variable on the left-hand side. So we've got d, 12 divided by pi is going to be 12 over pi. And then on this side, pi d divided by pi is going to be d. So this is going to be our answer. So d equals, I don't need to write it again, but we need to write our meters in there. So that's going to be our answer, 12 over pi meters. Okay, so in this question you have to find the perimeter of a quadrant. Now it'll be helpful to think back to the question we had to find the perimeter of a semicircle. Remember, for a semicircle we have half of a circle, so we're only finding half of our circumference. This time we have a quarter of a circle because we have a quadrant. That might help you with your question or your answer. Okay, so we're finding the perimeter and we have a radius of 3, so we're going to use this equation somewhere in there. Now we want the arc length, so we go around the whole perimeter. Arc length is first, so we're going to find, we need 2 pi r, but remember we have a quadrant, so we're going to do a quarter of that. Next, we have to add the 2 radii, so we're going to have plus r plus r. So if we simplify this one a bit, we're going to have a quarter of 2 is going to be a half pi r. And then we're going to add 2r. Now we can just substitute in the value of radius, which is 3. So we have a half pi times 3 plus 2 times 3. So perimeter is going to be 3 over 2 pi plus 6. And we could simplify that to 3 pi over 2 plus 6. And then this is all in meters. So we'd write it like that. And that's our final perimeter. If you have any questions, please bring them to me. Otherwise, you can go on with your next task. Thank you.